Of course, these radicalism and bigotry you're talking about generated Islamophobia, but what they are against is radicalism and bigotry, and we are against radicalism and bigotry also. But the only way to treat this problem is through education, of course, to teaching the true religion. And in true religion, there is no radicalism, there are no angry speeches, angry behaviors. A Muslim is soft-spoken, highly educated, very modern, between the limits of haram and halal, and a highly educated person, very nice person, and treats other people with tolerance and with love.
Yes.
That's what Islam is. Islam is a religion of peace, actually. The word Islam comes from Slim. Slim is peace.
Right, and it also, you know, the issue, though, is if all Muslims said what you said and were personal and felt that way, we wouldn't have the problem. But we have to realize, if you look at the last 220 attempts on terrorism in America, 180 of them were Muslims. And, you know, we have to realize, if you look at the Egyptian constitution this week that just came out, it is a constitution that doesn't resemble anything that's free or liberal, and it was put forth by a political party in Egypt that claims to be Muslim and representing the Muslim community and as part of the Islamic movement of Egypt. And yet they are huge movements that are claiming to be Islamic and aren't all about peace and tolerance, but about domination and putting into place their interpretation of Sharia, which is our Islamic law. And once one group puts forth a religious law, it prevents all of us from choosing which pathway we want to practice, and that's not freedom, that's theocracy. And we have to realize that those are problems within our communities that we need to be able to debate and discuss, and there's been some huge barriers to that discussion.
Actually,
I want to add just one thing. I think one of the best ways to diffuse fear in the West of Muslims is for the West to see us leading large organizations that are taking on the Imam Qardawis of the world, the Imam Tantawi from Al-Azhar, who said that the West is a Islamophobic machine and that calls Israel and the West terrorist states and all these things. If they hear us Muslims targeting and saying, you know what, they don't represent us, that we believe in Western society, we believe in freedom, that we want to reform the ideas that create Islamist movements, they will then realize that we're part of the solution, the only solution really, rather than the problem.
Well, the solution is, of course, unity of three Abrahamic religions, good people coming together with wisdom, and of course teaching the bigots and the radicalists. But these people exist, and Allah says that in the Quran actually. For example, Allah gives an example in a verse. Allah says, there is a gang of 9 men, Allah says. And these people, gang of 9 men, according to this verse, Allah says, they try to murder the Prophet and the companion, and they swear to act in the name of God. So that kind of people exist. They swear in the name of God, and they murder innocent people, which is haram, of course. Or they do suicide. There is no justification for suicide. There is no justification for murdering innocent people. That is definitely unlawful against the Quran. So the only way to treat this is not with violence. Violence only generates violence. Violence cannot be stopped with violence. It is education, with intellectual struggle, and good people coming together, like yourself, for example. You are highly educated, a very good example for the Muslims. And good people coming together, we can do this in training and education.
Well, thank you. And I think one of the important things that I want your viewers, and I hope one of the main points I want to get across, is remember the radicals that end up doing these acts of violence. Like look at Nidal Hassan, who committed Fort Hood incident in Texas here in America, killed 13 Americans, was a psychiatrist, very highly educated. I have a chapter in my book where I talk about how his resume looked very similar to mine. But the message to Muslims should be that this individual did not go to sleep one night a compassionate, peaceful Muslim and then wake up the next day deciding to fill up a number of rifles with bullets and kill every American that he could find. This happened over a period of time. And I think our Homeland Security can address the violent ones, the ones that are going to blow themselves up. And the FBI has prevented a number of bombings here in America, including the Federal Reserve incident and a number just in the past few months. But what we can do as Muslims, long before they get violent, there are messages that are coming from certain sermons, from certain imams, that teach our kids to feel sort of as a visitor in America, that we are not American, that somehow it's us versus them. 9/11 didn't happen to us Muslims, it happened to them, and we need to console Americans. It's not us versus them. We are Americans. We believe in liberty. Our identity as a political group is not as Muslims, but our identity is as American citizens. And our Muslim Liberty Project at AIFD is about taking youth, young adults, 15 to 30, and teaching them that their personal identity is about being American and feeling as close to Mormon colleagues, Jewish colleagues, atheists, anybody that would wear a uniform and believe in this country's constitution and citizenship has an equal access to the presidency and to government and to the law as everybody else, and that we as Muslims should never want to see, even if we were a majority, to see the government become an Islamic state or have Sharia law, because that would exclude others, and it would be taking advantage of a pluralist system that gives us rights in a way that makes our Muslim identity take precedent over our American identity, which I think is wrong.
There is actually no oppression in Islam. But you have a next question, actually.